welcome to this week's video. My name's Ruth, and if you are new to my channel, it's really lovely to have you here, and I hope you enjoy this week's video, which is going to be all about relationships, and particularly around attachment in relationships. So we're going to be looking at the difference between being attached and being connected, and the sort of unhealthy attachment patterns that we can have, and the more healthy connection patterns that we can look to find in our relationships. Because, you know, if we're going to be in any kind of romantic relationship that's, you know, a longer term type of relationship, there are going to be real challenges to that, and it's going to test us in many different ways and really show us our own stuff that we need to work on. And a disclaimer before I get into the nitty-gritty of this video is that I really want to say I don't have all of this stuff down. Like, I have real issues in my marriage and my relationship, and you know, everyone does. So I'm not coming at this from a place of trying to tell you to have a relationship like mine, or to say I've got it all sussed and I know my stuff, because I'm figuring it out just like you. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is, just to start off this video, is sort of our ideas that we're surrounded by about relationships. And one of the interesting things that I heard someone speaking about recently was, you know, romanticisms and romantic songs that we associate with love, and potentially like songs that people play at their weddings. And then we start to look at the deeper messaging and the deeper meanings of some of those songs. We start to realise that what we actually think about in relationships can often be a little bit off. So for example, the Police, so Sting, has this song, you know, Every Breath You Take. I don't even know if that's what it's called, but you know the one I mean. Every breath you take, every step, I'll be watching you. So this is like a super successful love song that people have at their weddings. People have this song as their song with their partner. And actually, when Sting got asked about the lyrics and the meaning of the song, you know, he's like, this is about a surveillance society. The song is about surveillance. It's about 1984, the Orwell novel, around Big Brother and always being watched, and everything that we do being under surveillance. And yet the lyrics to that song have totally become emblematic of love and relationships. So I think that says quite a bit about how a lot of the songs that we associate as romantic love songs are actually often about really possessive, unhealthy, codependent patterns. And that particular instance just made me laugh, because I was like, yeah, that song is seen as a great love song, but actually it's about following someone. Every breath you take, I will be watching you. So this idea that the partner, so let's just say it's Sting, and he's going to be following around his partner. Every breath they take, he's going to be there watching them. Do any of us want that in our relationships? That's sort of what I want to talk about in this video, is that there is a big difference between attachment in relationships and being dependent on someone, and having a connection. So if you think about like attachment, we're holding on to it, whereas a connection to me feels like it's something more fluid and it's something more flexible. So the idea that we always have to be with someone, and our partner is going to fulfill all of our needs, and they're going to be our best friend, they are going to be our co-parent, they're going to be our lover, they're going to be our domestic house partner. You know, all of these roles that we pile on top of our romantic partners in long-term relationships can feel really claustrophobic, and can, you know, we lose our appreciation and our special connection with that person because we become so knotted and entwined, and we squash them with these expectations that, you know, more and more in society now, that we really expect all of those roles from one partner. Whereas in the past, if we go back to where we would have lived in more tight-knit communities and more tribal living, if we go back to like hunter-gatherer societies, we would never have expected, no woman living in a Native American tribe would have ever expected her partner to fulfill all of her needs, all of her friendship needs, all of her providing needs, all of her sexual needs even. So the idea that we now expect all of these things from our partner, it's like everything has gone from being wide to being very narrow. And when things get narrow, that's where tension can build, and we can feel like we come up against that tension, and it creates a lot of stress and pressure within our relationships. So going to that Native, say we're just in this Native American tribe and we are all living in community with one another, you know, it takes a village, it takes a tribe. That phrase, it takes a village, is so poignant and important to remember in a one-to-one monogamous long-term relationship, because, you know, it's not possible for your partner to fulfill all of those things, and it is not natural. So you hear a lot about people, and I may have even said this myself at my wedding, I can't remember, but in the vows, you know, you'll talk about how you love your partner and you want to spend the rest of your life with them, and you want them to be, you know, they're your best friend. And Esther Perel, the couples therapist and sexual therapist, always points to that and really highlights the fact that, should we be expecting our partners to be our best friends if we want to have a strong sexual connection with that person? Are we going to be able to really be best friends with them as well? And how do we then keep up the sort of the passion and the connection, the healthy connection, if we are putting all this pressure on them to also be our best friend? And do those two roles really fit together? So we cannot be surprised when we expect our partner to be our best friend, we expect them to be a great parent, we expect them to be a great lover, and then people make mistakes, people get squashed under that pressure, and then, you know, people are unfaithful, people are forced to feel like they're backed into a corner, and then lies get told, and affairs happen, and divorce happens. And, you know, these things are part and parcel of the complexities of life, but they're also exacerbated by this pressure that we can tend to put on our relationships. So thinking about the fact that it really does take a village, and when I was getting ready this morning, I was just thinking of an example of this idea of a village, or you might think about it in your workplace, like the whole community picture is like a jigsaw. So different people bring different things to the table, and we've all got unique gifts and unique qualities and strengths and weaknesses. And when we all come together and we plug in our pieces of the jigsaw, we make this beautiful whole connected picture. And there are no jigsaws out there, even for like, I don't know, like babies or toddlers with just two pieces in them. They don't exist, as far as I know anyway. So, or it would be a bit of a rubbish jigsaw. So the idea that we connect with this one person, and then we expect that we are one piece of the jigsaw and they are the other piece of the jigsaw, and we're going to make this whole picture just the two of us, is really not feasible, and it's not going to create a very exciting experience to put together a 2-person jigsaw, and it's not going to create a very beautiful textured patchwork of a life. So you really have to just bear that in mind when we're wanting our partner to give us everything. It's just not possible. And I think that having that healthy attitude of, okay, so what can my workplace give me? What can my friendships give me? What can my family give me? What can my pets give me? What can other people of, whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or you're in a same-sex relationship or whatever on the spectrum of that you're in, how can you cultivate other sorts of relationships that give you some energy that takes the weight off your partner? Are all healthy questions to be asking in the quest that doesn't seem to be going away for long-term monogamous relationships, which is still the norm in our society. Obviously that's rapidly changing and shifting as well, but it's only helpful, whatever kind of relationship we're in, to think about how we can ease those pressures and have a more realistic expectation of what our partners can offer us. And I think the idea that if we go back and we look at the commandments of, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife, thou shalt not, at some point in our history, relationships and sex and love have really become like knotted up in this idea of ownership and the idea that we own the other person, which in my opinion is not a healthy place to be in. Like, even if you choose to be married and you choose to enter into a contract with somebody that you are committed to, it does not mean that that person owns you, and it does not mean that you cannot make mistakes. And the idea that we own somebody else then commodifies that person and makes them feel like they are not a full human. And I think that that is definitely something that we don't want to cultivate in a marriage or a long-term relationship or in any romantic relationship. So just thinking about, like, next time you have those feelings come up that you own that person and they're doing something that you don't want them to do, or they have pissed you off, and just really honouring that they are a sovereign person. They are connected, you are tethered, but you are not, they are not in a straitjacket and they are not locked to you, like the old ball and chain analogy. And really asking yourself, turning the spotlight on yourself when things come up and thinking, am I asking too much of this person? Oftentimes they might be doing something which is completely not okay, and on the scale of things it's like, no, I can expect more than that. But I think most of the time, for me personally, we have really weighty, lofty expectations of the other person. And often if we can turn it on ourselves and think, okay, how would I feel if someone was doing this to me? Am I being fair? Then you can just navigate the whole waters a little bit easier. And I want to end the video with a poem. So I'm just going to get it on my iPad now. And it's a really beautiful poem by a poet called Khalil Gibran. He wrote The Prophet, which is a beautiful book, which is a really nice short story, verses, you can dip in and out of it. And this is a section, I don't know if it is a poem, it's sort of like a piece of writing that he wrote on marriage. So I'm just going to read it now. So, then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be for evermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. but let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heaven dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. So that is On Marriage by Khalil Gibran, and I think it's really beautiful, particularly the part where it says, stand together yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart. So the idea that to create balance and to allow his cypress tree and your oak tree to thrive and grow, you cannot be too close to one another. You cannot be intertwined. You must find balance and space to create strength. You know, temples and pillars create strength for a building. So I think that using pieces of writing or questioning romantic songs and really questioning ourselves and our expectations that we have on our relationships can really help. And talking about this with our partners, communication, like even if you argue or you have heated debates, really just saying to your partner, like, you know, I watched this video and it really made me think about that song we had at our wedding, or it really made me think about the pressure I can put on you to be my everything, and I'm really sorry if I'm doing that. What can we do to make things better? And having those conversations, as long as you're going into it from a place of curiosity and you're taking ownership and responsibility, then your partner's not going to feel attacked. Some things may trigger and bring up difficult emotions in this arena, especially if you are very attached or codependent on your partner, but they only lead to good things in the long term, in my opinion. And setting healthy boundaries, understanding the difference between being healthily tethered and connected rather than being like, you know, squished up against each other in a vice, is really a good way to cultivate, you know, healthier long-term relationships. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, leave me comments. Thank you for watching. If you want to subscribe, do all of that stuff, you can do it maybe somewhere here now on the screen or below, and I will see you next week for another video. Thank you. Bye.